Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week we continue our retrospective on Godzilla with the 1972 movie Godzilla vs. Gigan. And if you're listening to this whole series on Godzilla all at once, you might go ahead and listen to last week's episode after this one, because we did these two in reverse, no particular reason, and it really doesn't matter. If you watch the film, bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have. So warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, editor of this summer's Castle of Horror anthology, which is out. You've got to get it and let me know what you think and what's your favorite story, and we'll tell you the story behind them. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
And also in Austin, writer of the long-running underground comic series Halloween Man and winner of the 2018 Best of Austin Award from the Austin Chronicle, Mr. Drew Edwards. Say hello.
Mr. Drew Edwards.
Yes, indeed.
That's me.
And finally, also in Denver, as always, color commentary from the one, the only attorney, Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Godzilla vs. Gigan is a 1972 Japanese kaiju film directed by Jun Fukuda, written by Takeshi Kimura, and produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka. It is a Toho film. It is the 12th movie in the Godzilla franchise. It features Godzilla, Gigan, Anguirus, and King Ghidorah. Those are the monster stars of this movie. It also stars some humans, which we will get to. But that's the key thing, is you have this tag team of monsters, and it's very much in line with what happens in the next film. It is the last film in which Godzilla was portrayed by Mr. Nakajima, who had played the character since the original 1954 film. Isn't that interesting? Godzilla vs. Gigan was released in Japan on March 12th, 1972, and then it came out here in 77. 5 years it took to get here, and it had another name. It was called Godzilla on Monster Island, which is really hilarious because Godzilla is only on Monster Island very briefly in this movie. So, Julia, you haven't started us in a while, so let's go, Julia, Tony, Drew, and then I'll go with our opening thoughts on Godzilla versus Gigan, and then we'll get into it. Julia, what do you think?
This movie's off the rails, man. It is crazy. It is batshit crazy. I mean, there is like so many things that happen that are just like, wait, what? What's happening right now?
I know.
From the first shot, from the first, like, wow, you open the film and it's like, wait, what am I looking at right now? Because it's all these comic strip images and like weird voices. It's like, I'm like, are we watching the wrong thing? Is this like somebody's art project version? And then it's like, oh wait, no, one of the main characters is a comic art, or like an artist or whatever, and he's putting together this storyboard, and he's showing it to somebody, and the guy's like, wait, what? Why is this incomplete? Like, why are you saying? Anyway, so you're kind of like, what's happening with these people? He's got this girlfriend that he doesn't like very much, but he stays with her because I think he's afraid she might kill him if he leaves her, because she's a badass, black belt karate champion, whatever. And anyway, so we have some people that eventually, spoiler alert, turn out to be aliens. You've got monsters, some of whom are under the control of the aliens, some of whom are not. And you've got Godzilla talking, which I was like, what? Did I just hear him speak? Did he just actually say things? He's actually talking to the most adorable little monster. What's his name? The
Anguirus.
Anguirus. He's so cute.
Did I say that right, Tony? Or is it Anguirus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so they, he tells Anguirus to go check out what this tape is. I don't know. It's gonna be fun to talk about, but it's such a crazy movie. I love the characters, the humans. I think they're really interesting and fun. I thought that, the plot is wacko, but it's fun. It's interesting. So I did enjoy it. I personally thought that the fight at the end of the monsters went on too long, but I know some people absolutely love that monster fight. So, but there's great stuff in it. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Let's see. Who did we say next? It was Tony. So, Tony, we're working our way through a bunch of Godzilla movies. Hey, this might be asking a lot, but can you give us like some cultural context for how we got from the atomic metaphor to this?
It's hard. I don't even know if the filmmakers knew all of it. I mean, they're really just shooting, they're aiming for the fences.
Yes.
It's such a weird. I saw it maybe it was about a year ago. It's been a while, but I saw it in the theater and I had forgotten how crazy it is. Especially Godzilla on Monster Island, because Destroy All Monster, what is actually Godzilla on Monster Island. They use stock footage from that movie in this one. But it's got so many crazy characters like this. And the mangaka who's in it, comic books creator, he's awful. He may be a good artist, but man, are his ideas, his poor editor who has to tell him like, why did you bring me this? And I saw his girlfriend's the girl's more of his manager. I don't know. Yeah. And so, because she's trying to get him gigs and like, hey, but she's awesome. He is a hapless.
You don't think she's his girlfriend?
They've equipped a giant Godzilla tower with lasers that can harm monsters.
Poor Godzilla walks toward that thing and suddenly it shoots him. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's
a wonderful moment.
Love how insane this movie is. They're whatever was going on, and they had like the very, very typical. You'll see the trope. I've seen in comics and like 70s anime more than anything else, but the hippie who's in it is very much a Japanese hippie through and through. His whole look, everything about him is like
he's overweight,
thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into him. I want to say some of that.
All of that stuff. Like I really enjoy this movie because as an entry into, I mean, it's got to be the overall craziest one. I mean, from front to back, it's mind blowing how it got made. But I think the world is better because of it.
Awesome, Drew. Your opening thoughts. I know that you're a big monster fan. I have no idea how big a Godzilla fan you are. So your opening thoughts on this film, Godzilla versus Gigan.
I mean, he did get a tattoo, so I think he's a pretty big fan.
Oh, that's darn true. But he has,
Jason. I'm not. I said a couple of weeks back, it's not a competition between me and Tony, but I am a bit of a Godzilla fan. I'm not as big as some, but I have seen this movie actually many times. I will say, Tony, if there is one entry that can out crazy this one, it might be Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, but that is debatable. Debatable.
The only reason why I put it slightly below is because most of that movie is played very seriously.
Yes.
For better or worse.
This movie Godzilla talks. So
yeah. And it just has so many bits of head scratching insanity that I think this one tops it. But I totally hear you. That's the one I was thinking about when I was like, it's Hedorah, this one, and last week's movie that together make a trilogy of whatever they were on in the 70s, that was getting passed around.
Yes.
So my thoughts on this movie. It has a lot of the same problems as Godzilla versus Megalon, but I like this movie a lot more. It's difficult for me to pinpoint why, because I think the fight choreography in Godzilla versus Megalon is a little better, but I like the fact that this heroic version of Godzilla, he really has to work for his win in this, and there's something that I like about that. I think the characters are, like the human characters are more interesting in this one than in Godzilla versus Megalon. Also, just like Gigan is such a cool looking wackadoo monster, and it's just hard for me not to like him, when he's on screen. Like he's fun to look at. And the fact that that they tie in like comics and everything, and it's also got this sort of, you call him his girlfriend or his manager, I call her a Japanese Emma Peel, because she kung fu kicks the shit out of all the bad guys.
Oh yeah, she is the most competent person.
Oh, she is awesome. And I don't know. I've actually had conversations with people about this movie where they are like in which I have told people that I enjoy this one, and I've had people at cons tell me that this is like not only their least favorite Godzilla movie, but they think it's the worst Godzilla movie ever made, and I don't understand why. The only thing that I can get out of that is that, like, which is a legitimate complaint, is that at the end of the movie, the suit sort of looks like it's falling apart. And that's legit.
Yeah.
But this movie is a lot of fun to watch. And again, technically, yes, it has a lot of the stuff that I did not like about last week's movie. So maybe that just goes to show you, like, enjoyment of a movie is an incredibly nebulous thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. We are definitely in this movie at this period with, and they're coming like once a year at this point. Gigan, Megalon, Mechagodzilla, Terror of Mechagodzilla. We are rocketing towards the end of this initial era of Godzilla that began back in the 50s and is now going to wrap up 20 years later, which is a good long run for a movie series. And it's going to just stop and stay dormant for 9 or 10 years. And maybe that makes sense because to some extent, all of us are kind of enjoying how wacky these movies are. But it's possible that you could say they're getting so out there that Toho really needed to hit the reset button later on, and also to pick a tone and pick how exactly they were going to work with these things. They've long since abandoned this sort of super duper serious tone of the original Godzilla. And you're right, Tony. I think that Hedorah, good Christ, that's a bummer of a movie. I think they were just running out of ways to make movies about a giant monster, play super serious. But we'll see very soon how they do it in Return of Godzilla, because that's going to be one of the episodes we do. All right. So, rather than work our way necessarily through the plot, I'd like to instead talk about, most of this movie is human actors playing stuff, and the monsters are not in it a great deal. Before we get to the alien plot, though, I do want to gets played, and it gets the attention of Godzilla. And this is the single most memorable thing that everybody knows about this movie, which is that Godzilla, who we've been watching for like a billion movies already, stands up and goes, "Something funny's going on," which is the weirdest darn thing to hear a giant lizard say.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So it should be noted, though, too, in the Japanese edition, it just sounds like record scratches, which you can still hear under his. It's just, but also in the international version, they had manga style word balloons.
Word balloons, yeah,
beside them. And in the Blu-ray that I have, they do not have those, which is a shame because that's kind of cool. But without those, you also couldn't read what they were saying. So in the Japanese one, without that, it's just record back and forth noises.
Yeah.
But with the voice that they've chosen, it's just so insaniac too.
Well, that is a weird accident. The voice just happens to be Ted Thomas. He's the producer, and he was also a voice actor, and so he recorded himself to do Godzilla. He probably, if you think he's a contractor, he maybe was getting paid, and he's like, "I'm a voice actor, I can figure out a voice for Godzilla." This is not the voice for Godzilla that I would choose if we were to say, like, what does Godzilla sound like? Fun question. He does not sound like this. He has, because Ted Thomas's voice is he's doing a voice that's kind of high and scratchy. I don't know why he's going with this. He also does the voice for Anguirus, who says basically repeatedly, "Okay."
Yes. Good thing, buddy.
That's something else that I wanted to discuss. Godzilla has a friend. When did Godzilla's best friend Anguirus make his first appearance? Because he's here, and apparently there's a lot of movies that we have not watched where
that
Anguirus is Godzilla's
raids again. This is actually Godzilla's first on-screen opponent, and it's the original sequel. We don't learn how they become pals.
Right.
I guess that all happened off screen.
Yeah, because
on
they're
Monster
friends.
Island, no less, I'm sure.
They are pals. Anguirus does. So what you're telling me is that Godzilla's first major foe was beaten and then became his pal. So you're saying that Anguirus is basically Apollo Creed for the Godzilla universe, and great. I think that's I think that's wonderful. He is cute. He's sort of a, I don't know. He's sort of a porcupine. He's an action porcupine, is what he is. A prehistoric porcupine.
Yeah, he's like an ankylosaurus.
Oh, well, very good. All right. I did not know what that was, but okay.
It's a armor-plated dinosaur that sort of looks like a armadillo on lizard steroids.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do some tricks later on because he's covered with all of these spikes. Anguirus's big trick is to throw himself against people.
Oh, and in trivia, Anguirus has 5 brains.
Really? Anguirus does not seem like the smartest dinosaur among
5 brains that controls. That's what that control is.
He can talk,
limbs.
Jason. So
Well,
that
Yeah.
I think that makes him a very smart dinosaur.
he possesses the
That's
faculty
right.
of speech. Yes. No, that's true. Yeah. It's a fun character, and the actor playing Anguirus has to spend most of his time crawling, which is misery. So hats off to him. Anguirus's plot is that when they play, you know what? I'm going to get to. We'll get to the monsters afterwards. Let's go back to what's going on with our human characters, because, like I said, there's very little monster action except for them sort of vaguely being aware of some things that are calling to them, in the main plot. And this is a film where humans and aliens do stuff dramatically, and then the last half hour is devoted to the main attraction. And it's funny to me how nakedly obvious that is, that we're really here to see kind of an evening's entertainment of a little drama involving these aliens and these humans. But we all know what we're really waiting for, and it's going to be the big wrestling match that comes in the last half hour. This is, Tony, this is exactly what you were saying a couple of weeks ago about the new Godzilla films and about talking to people who don't really remember what the old ones were like, because this is a perfect example. I'm not saying the alien stuff is bad. I'm just saying monsters don't show up until the last half hour. Yeah. That's how these movies are designed.
Stock footage.
Oh my God.
Other than some stock footage in this one, and that's not always the case even.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the whole business where you get like a tiny bit of Godzilla and he says, "Hey, buddy, go check out what's going on."
Go check it out.
Anguirus comes over to Japan, and then they start shooting at him and stuff, and he goes back. He's like, "Man, things are messed up. Let's go back."
Yes.
Nika needs some Godzilla. I think you need to be there as well. So let's go.
Yes. Your dialogue would be better than the dialogue that was actually in this movie. I would love to have seen.
I mean, I don't know if it needed the crazy dialogue anyway between monsters. I think you can kind of figure it out. But I mean, kudos again. Like I said, they're swinging for the fences. There's just what if they were buddies, and what if they talked?
Yes.
And what if Anguirus had to go get his buddy again?
Yeah.
And what if there was a new monster that they could summon? These aliens, who, by the way, reveal their alien cockroaches. But it's kind of like, I would love to see the pitch meeting for this. But it does feel like that. It's like when you're talking to a young, like usually it's a young person.
Yeah.
And then they say things. Well, and then Godzilla's still on Monster Island, but then there's aliens, and the aliens have a tape, and the tape can summon Godzilla. But then Godzilla talks to Anguirus, and then Anguirus goes, but then he can't beat him, so he goes back, and then he gets Godzilla. But then there's Gigan, and Gigan has a chainsaw on his chest, and he can fly. And then he has a friend, and his friend is Ghidra, because he's the alien too. Like, it just sounds like if you ever talk to like your kids or someone else's kids or your niece or nephew, that's the plot. And then but there's a giant Godzilla tower, and they are going to build for peace because they like peace, but it's not real peace because the aliens are cockroaches and they ruin another world, and now they want to ruin our world for peace. But then Godzilla has to fight the tower, and the tower can shoot, but he's also got to fight Gigan. And also Ghidra. But that's what it sounds like when you put it all together. That's how it feels. And I love that about it because it's all of those things.
Oh yes.
And they have trapped they've trapped a kind of super spy guy.
Yes.
And the manga guy, he has the worst. So look, I remember this specifically. So we have a guy whose profession is comic book artist, mangaka.
Yeah.
And
it's a big deal.
He's been told to
great
make
profession.
something cool, and he's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, what are kids afraid of? It could be anything. You think of the pantheon of Japanese monsters and like all the manga that you've read or seen or whatever. Any comic book you can think of that's a horror comic. He's like, kids are scared of homework and moms.
Yep.
Yes.
And he draws
unfair
them.
moms.
And they're terrible. No kid wants to read a book about how scary moms and homework are. Even if they are scared of those things.
I don't know, man. Mama Gon is a truly fearsome monster.
There's a reason why that manga never made it. I mean, now granted,
where was Godzilla versus Mama Gon?
Maybe they were hoping for that sweet sequel money.
I think it's funny that they work the whole
and Mama Gon team up and give Minya homework and a mom.
Poor
but
Minya.
Also,
so.
I mean, this is now
Julia
granted,
probably isn't aware of Minya, by the way. I just want to point out the little baby Godzilla blowing smoke rings.
Aww.
That is Minya.
So
that
cute.
It's not Minya, but it's also Minila, like Mini Godzilla, right?
Oh, right.
Most of the time in the dubs, they just call him Minya.
Interesting. I had no idea that was Minila. That's brilliant.
Now, granted, Japan did have an anime series called Gold Lightan. And Gold Lightan is a lighter, like an executive gold lighter.
Like lighter. That's funny.
For kids. Granted, you probably lit cigarettes with this.
Yes.
But the show is more or less for kids. So maybe Mama Gon's not so far off. And you do have an actual series about a robot, a transforming lighter that sounds like the tower, the building in Big, where he goes, "Who wants to play with a building?" When you see Gold Lightan, you think the same thing. So maybe the dude's onto something with Mama Gon, but holy moly, is it terrible.
They give us the whole pitch, which leads me to believe that this is something that the writer was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and have this mangaka go ahead and say the whole pitch about what the about the homework monster is going to be. And that way, maybe somebody listening to it will go, you see, that's actually a pretty good idea.
Like he's pitched it in his head.
Right.
So, hey, so he's asking, like, they have so it screens, right? And, you know, the whole fight happens and everything. And then the lights come up and he looks over at like another producer or another filmmaker and goes, so that guy had some pretty good ideas, right? Like Mama Gon, homework. What do you think? No, that's terrible. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, you know, he's a silly creator. I mean, he's silly, right? Never mind. And then he goes,
homework monster, for what it's worth, the way the guy describes it is that the psychic energy of the children goes up into space and creates a monster.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of fantastic.
And then he's scared of homework, and then the psychic creature.
Yes. Okay, so what it is, you've got you've got this mangaka with his nosy girlfriend who is very tough and is clearly, I mean, you know, she beats people up for him.
I love that he calls her a bitch under his breath, and she's like, "What'd you say?" It's like, "Nothing, because you're a black belt karate, so nothing."
The way she beats up those alien goons, like I have very little doubt that she could take out this kind of smarmy comic book artist.
Trench coat wearing, pipe smoking. Nothing looks sillier than a 22-year-old with a pipe. Honestly,
man, you're really gonna piss off the 22-year-old pipe contingent of our. Look what you've done. Like, why do you have to...
all half of them?
I don't know, man. I don't know what people's choices.
So, well, I apologize. If you're a 22-year-old and you smoke a mean pipe and you look good doing it, post it on our page and we'll all comment.
He's gonna be like, you know what the difference between you and me is? I make this look good.
Yes,
that's right. That's right.
All right, so she's like, you need to get a job. And he's like, but nobody's hiring me with my brilliant ideas. And she goes, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go over to the World Children's Land, which is an international theme park based apparently in Japan, and go get a job there. Has nothing whatsoever to do with making manga, but He needs a job. He goes to see those
He's an
guys,
illustrator, so.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, well whatever. You seem like you'd be an excellent candidate. So why don't you go to our downtown office?" Which he just stumbles, and he stumbles upon somebody who is stealing information from them, and that's how he meets his two pals, the sort of the girl who is seeking information, and the chubby hippie.
Well, he doesn't know that they're stealing, to be fair. She runs out of the building and drops a disc. He picks up the disc, and then these guys, this group of kind of mean-looking guys come out.
Oh,
and they're
yes.
like, "Where'd she go?" And so he's just like, "Over there," points a different direction. And then
Yes.
she comes back and goes, "Give me my disc back." And then he gets, he faints because he thinks he's being held up at gunpoint by her buddy, but he's actually just holding, like, what was that, even a popsicle? What was, I don't even know.
Corn
What
It was a
on the
corn
cob.
cob.
Corn on the cob. Anyway, so but that was hilarious. So that's how. But yeah, but he just picks up. She just dropped it on the way out.
So
Sure.
what must it be like to be? If they are a couple, the woman's a kung fu badass.
Yeah.
Like, just rips shit, and then meanwhile her shipless boyfriend, who has terrible ideas, is fainting from being held
Yes.
up with a corn cob.
Well, listen, I don't know that I wouldn't faint if somebody stuck what appeared to be a gun in my back. What do I know,
Sure.
right?
And
But-
obviously he's married to a kung fu badass. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
No, I don't
But-
do that.
Well, I mean, so it's flipped the traditional Hollywood gender roles, right?
Sure.
Japanese movie, who knows what the roles are supposed to be? He's the sort of, he's the you know, he's an
I
artist.
forgot, though, he's painted her as Mama Gon, though.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because he's painting, and she's like, doesn't that look familiar? Oh, no, it's totally not you.
Yeah.
That's such a, he's such
They're a fun couple. I mean, to be honest, I would like these people if I met them at a party and he's like there smoking his pipe and saying, "Yeah, I make manga. I keep hurting myself. I can't explain it, but I just fall down all the time. But this is my wife. She's a
Whereas
kung fu master."
I'd be pulling him aside, going, "Do you need the name of a shelter? Because there's no places you can go."
So they're fun. I do like that they harass one another. She's the whole. He calls her a cold bitch. He says, "What? Nothing. That's what I thought." And then, she's wonderful. The hippie is great. He's like the guy. He's like the hippie from Gatchaman, really.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. You'll see it in was it Wild 7? One of the guys, like, super hippie. It's like a collection of bikers who go against the law. They're formed by a law guy, like a cop, and to be, when the law is corrupt or can't get stuff done, you summon Wild 7. But they're also in that. But you kind of see that trope. You'll see it in a lot of 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So.
It is a very. It's like a reimagining of Sonny Bono in a sense. What the effect, though, is that the men in this movie are all definitely second fiddle to some extremely competent women. That is the way it runs up and down. Because the rest of the men, there's the father that the muckraking girl who's getting the information wants to free, and he's like a genius, so that's cool. But he's an older generation, and he needs to be saved. And then the rest of them are evil aliens, because it turns out that the World Peace Conference, whatever the heck it is all a fake. They are building a giant tower that is their headquarters. The giant tower has a giant laser beam in it. This is going to be their.
It looks like Godzilla,
and it looks like Godzilla, and this is going to be their fortress from which they control the monsters that they are summoning from space.
It's also going to be a monster museum, which I find to be.
Well, that's their cover story. Their cover story is it's going to be a monster museum. Practically, it seems like they're going to unleash this attack on Earth and kill everybody. And the monsters that they've brought are Ghidorah. I don't know where they got him, but they've got Ghidorah, and they've got this Gigan. Is the origin of Gigan ever given?
I guess he just comes from their planet.
Yeah, I guess not. He's Drew was saying, by the way, that it wasn't a trick question. I just couldn't remember if anything comes up in the film. Drew was saying that there was some side art later.
Not to this, the Godzilla.
Oh, to the anime. Yeah, because Gigan's not a traditional monster. He's a cyborg. He is a
cyborg.
Yeah, he's got a buzzsaw in his belly. He's got claws for hands.
Well, he also like the fact that he's got all these blades on him
Yeah.
makes for some of the other more unusual facets of this movie is that it's kind of gory for a
Yeah.
Godzilla movie. Like there's points where he like buzzes into Godzilla or Anguirus and they actually will have like arterial
Oh, God.
spray
Yeah.
with like this fake blood. And I remember when I first saw this movie as a kid being kind of horrified by that.
Yes. Oh, no, it is disturbing. When he manages to get close enough to Anguirus to buzzsaw Anguirus's like body or nose or whatever it is. Yeah, they spatter a bunch of thick blood on the screen, which is crazy odd. We remember Gigan in Megalon was the one who would use those claws to like grab Jet Jaguar's head and threaten to like rip it off. So he's a vicious monster.
So, by the
Ghidorah,
way, though, Jason,
yeah.
the engineer who's been captured by the Nebula M, that's her brother.
Oh, I'm so
And that's
sorry.
why she's searching for him. She's like, "Hey, my brother disappeared." Meanwhile, I don't know why they haven't like buried him underneath. I
Yes.
guess maybe they needed to engineer more stuff, but they've kept him around instead of
He's like the character Dennis in Jurassic Park. They hired him to do a bunch of sciencey stuff, and then
Right.
and now he's been whining. Except for unlike Dennis, he's the good guy and they're bad guys. But yes, you would think that they would have at the very least just pitched him out the top of the tower by now, and
Or buried like as they were building. Like, no,
absolutely.
he's around, and by around I mean in the foundation.
There are untold contractors buried inside the columns of buildings.
Yeah, I mean, and it does offer a good foil for our illustrious mangaka to unstealthily try to
Oh
do,
God. Yeah.
he keeps sneaking in, but he's terrible at that. Gingo is terrible.
Yeah. By the way, that trench coat that he wears, I do really. He looks like a manga character because I've read 1,000 like manga from this period, and the hero wearing the awesome trench coat, the Bogart trench coat, is just extremely.
Doggo
extremely
13 sometimes has one.
Yeah.
When he's not
And
wearing.
I was
a suit,
really
he's wearing
thankful
a
that
trench coat like that.
I was thankful that he's wearing it because it's easy to pick him out. You don't have to be like, wait, who is that? Oh yeah, you like immediately know.
Yeah. No. Okay. So, what do we need to know about the aliens before we get to the monsters? We talked about what their
aside from the whole cockroach thing.
They are cockroaches. This is funny because next movie, cockroaches will figure again because Megalon is a giant cockroach monster who is brought out by the underground. But
and they want
this
peace
one
for themselves.
Yeah. Right. That's really wonderful and cynical that these people with this giant organization that are taking money for peace, that what they mean is peace for themselves and death for evereverone else.
Yeah, it's like when politicians say
that is a way towards peace.
It's like when politicians say we want bipartisan support. We want everybody to come together, and it's like around my idea. Like everybody needs to get together.
I want everybody to come to my side. Yeah, I don't know if the Japanese are making some kind of commentary.
Dark judges. Sorry, that's kind of how the dark judges worked in Judge Dredd. They killed everybody because people make crime.
Yes,
so if you kill everybody, there's no crime.
There's no crime.
So these cockroaches, they're like, if we kill everybody, peace.
It's
how peaceful we are.
The aliens are also. I think it's important to note they're not just wearing human costumes. They have inhabited corpses.
Yeah. Because there's a whole Scooby-Doo plot that goes on.
Yeah. That's a good point. I forgot to bring that up. I don't know how, but good point.
Our heroes
they inhabit corpses.
Yeah. And it's magical in a sense because I know I'm asking too much. This is silly. But it is a little bit magical because when the sun shines on them, they cast cockroach shadows behind them. That are visible to other people. So it's not just something they're doing for us. It's actually visible.
Yeah,
it's a plot.
Yeah, I thought it was that they decided to reveal like, haha. It's kind of that's how it plays in the scenes where they're like, by the way, we're cockroaches.
Well, yeah, but if I'm wearing if I'm a cockroach, even if I'm like a 2-foot long cockroach, which God knows I hope doesn't exist, and I'm controlling a human body that I have preserved, and I guess I have slit the back of the body and inserted myself down its spine so that I can kind of control the nerves and move it around and stuff. Great. But if the sun shines on me, I'm going to cast a human-looking shadow. So the extra effect of casting a cockroach shadow is difficult to pull off. Unless there's not actually a body. They've chosen bodies and then somehow they're actually just having a glamour instead. This is a silly thing to be
I
concerned
mean,
about.
it's mainly used for effect, though. So they don't have to.
Yes.
They didn't build a suit, right?
Yeah.
They're, at the point where they reveal, hey, by the way, we're also giant cockroaches. They just show the shadows so the people can react and go,
Yeah.
holy crap, they're giant cockroaches.
And then they actually have an actual cockroach at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, which was, again, kind of disconcerting to me as a kid. You know, as goofy as this movie is, you know, the first few times I watched it, there was stuff that legitimately creeped me out about this
Well, that's
movie.
creepy. Yes. That is pretty creepy. Remember they did this on Star Trek, by the way? There was a plot in season, gosh, I want to say like season 1, where they realized that a bunch of the best captains are being like sent off to the outer rim so that they're nowhere near Starfleet. So Picard wants to go see what's up. And when he gets there, he realizes that tiny little cockroach creatures have crawled inside of people who are leaders in the Federation and are taking over. And so they slaughter a couple of them.
Gross. That was like more like maggots than anything else. It was so gross.
But yeah, they were like lodged inside the rib cage of these people. Yeah. But you have to imagine that's what's going on here. That's the other thing. Actually, the shadow would work if he was like, no, let us show you now, and then he'd like somehow opened up the body and then sort of wriggled up a little bit to like wave his little cockroach arms around. So, yeah.
Right. But there's not a budget for that.
Right, but there's
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's pretty effective if you have X amount of budget.
Yeah.
So
they're cockroaches.
But yeah, it's cool because when they are doing some kind of, there's like doing some detective work, and they go and they realize like, hey, who is that? They track them down, realize they're dead.
Yes.
And then both
that's
of them,
the Scooby-Doo stuff. And that's good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. Like,
which I was really confused by at first because I was giving the movie more credit than it deserved and being like, so wait, so they actually aren't dead and they staged their own death and like blah blah blah, and then like no, they just took over the dead bodies.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So all of this is to say the attack on Earth is coming. They the aliens needed to get back the tape that the young lady stole because it is their tape to emit a giant sound out of the tower that they've built because it's big and it's got, you know, a loudspeaker to bring these monsters. Gigan, which, as you said, appears to be a cyborg from their planet, and Ghidra, who just floats in outer space, waiting to be, you know, to have a chance to help somebody else attack the Earth.
Right. Anytime aliens, a number of aliens, if you know how to contact Ghidra and you are an alien, not an Earthling, damn it, you can go, hey, we need a monster, really need you to attack people who aren't like just attack humans, please. Or I mean, supposedly I guess he perhaps did destroy some of the Planet X stuff, but in general, once that gig wore out, Ghidra's just waiting any chance. I don't know how they pay him or what the incentive is, but if you need a monster and you know where to find him, you can enlist.
Does he have like a stencil on his door that says, you know, monster for hire?
Yes.
I hope it's like
one of the three heads has a beeper in it.
I hope it's more you pull one little paper tabs.
Oh yeah.
There's some alien version, like maybe it's metal, but you pull it and then you get the number. Or in this case, like a tape. This one's a tape, and that's also why you know the tape is to control the monsters, hopefully. But it's also why Godzilla and Anguirus know that, hey, something's weird. I hear this crazy sounds.
That's right.
Somebody's up to no good.
Yeah, go check it out, Godzilla says. And then when they're swimming towards it, because they know that there's still no good coming, maybe there's monsters over there, who knows? They're swimming, and Godzilla's like in a hurry because he says, you know, hurry up. And Anguirus says once again, okay. So they get to Tokyo. the army who shot at Anguirus earlier, I believe at this point is not there when they show up. So they just sort of stomp towards the world planet thing. Oh no, at this point the army's into it because they're like, wait, monsters coming. The monsters have been set to attack Tokyo, and so the monsters are rampaging. Gigan and Ghidorah are blowing all kinds of stuff up.
Well,
and by the way, this is awesome, although a lot of it's stock footage.
Anguirus shows up first.
Yeah,
and the
but he gets sent
army
away.
actually repels him. Well, it's like, to me, it's notable though because it's one of the few times the army in one of these movies actually successfully gets a monster to retreat. And I don't know if it's because Anguirus is like, the hell with this, I have to report back to Godzilla or whatever, but I don't know, for whatever reason I found that kind of interesting.
It is very interesting that they turn him back. I get the impression that he's like, oh, enough of this shit, and I'm going back to, Godzilla told me to check it out. I'm gonna go back and say I can't make landfall. Those guys.
Although, how far is Monster Island from Japan? Because it seems like it's just a short,
evidently dangerously close.
It's like a mile and a half.
It feels like that.
What's the deal?
It was like, oh, we'll put them off where we can't. It's hard to get there. No, we can swim there in like a few hours.
Why is Monster Island a thing? Is this where the Earthlings have corralled the monsters, or how did they wind up there?
It's like an Indian reservation.
All right, and are they? How are they forced to remain? Is it
in Destroy All Monsters? They have like some monster controlling. Each monster gets its own kind of version of the monster controlling thing.
Some sort of way of creating a perimeter that they can't get past. So it's like the island in The Prisoner,
but not really, because apparently,
but not now.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to go do some stuff.
Godzilla can just jump right off and take off. But the thing is, the Earthlings now like Godzilla. In Monster Zero.
Yeah, he's kicking monster ass every time.
Oh yeah. Remember in Monster Zero, he comes wading up, and the first thing he does, he sees like a passenger ship, and he's just like, and he just blows it up for no reason. It just keeps moving. But none of that happens now. Now Godzilla's like our friend. To the extent that he's hurting anybody, it's because he's just a very large animal, and he has a tendency to step on things. But Gigan and Ghidorah have been absolutely tearing up, destroying Tokyo. You see that same Mobil Oil building that's gotten blown up in several movies.
You know what? I've never researched this, and I don't know why I keep meaning to. I am curious if Mobil Oil was just that's the gas stations that you had, or was Mobil Oil seen as an encroacher? And they took every opportunity.
Or is it like Acme? Or is it like Acme Corporation, where it's not even real in the world?
No, I mean Mobil Gas.
Well, I know Mobil's a real thing, but I'm saying in theirs, maybe it wasn't like yet or something.
I don't know. Or maybe they were owned by a rival of Mobil, like Toho was. So like, anytime you can destroy anytime you can just rip Mobil Oil a new one, just do it. I'm talking just flames everything. I don't know.
They're probably a sponsor of the movies, and they're like, please blow us up in every movie.
I guess I have not researched that, and I'm sure there's been.
Well, for one thing, it's I hate to.
It's amazing. Either
to get to the reality, it's stock footage. It's the same footage we've seen many times. The question is, why do they keep doing it? It looks good. There are several buildings that get blown up by Ghidorah.
Cut budget back, Jason. I mean,
they
were
starting, for sure.
By the time this movie was coming around, they were slashing the budgets back on the Godzilla movies because they weren't making as much money as they used to. I mean,
sure, yeah. Anyway, it's the effect of it, even with stock footage, which doesn't bother me at all. Truly, it doesn't bother me in this film. The effect is, boy, Tokyo's taking a beating. So then here come the army says, make way for Godzilla and Anguirus because maybe they'll take care of Gigan and Ghidorah. And so they march up. My favorite moment in all of this has to be the point when Godzilla turns towards the tower and is momentarily completely flabbergasted. He literally, Godzilla, a giant lizard, literally smacks the side of his own head to try to understand if he is seeing
That was
himself.
hilarious.
Yes.
That was so funny.
That's pretty cool. And then the smoke clears and he goes, "Oh, that's a big fake Godzilla," and that's enough of that. But the tower is as tall as Godzilla, and it's supposed to be just a fun part of this amusement park. But no, they've outfitted it with these amazingly powerful laser beams that can shoot it at Godzilla. Drew, are you a wrestling fan, or do you just know a lot about wrestling?
I went through a phase where I was a wrestling fan. I haven't watched wrestling in like seriously in years, but when I was in like my teens and early 20s, I liked wrestling.
So
Why do you ask?
I ask because I, more than ever before, I see these fights as being exactly like professional, like American style professional wrestling. There's the bad
Oh,
guys, there's the
totally.
good guys. You know, the good guys always really look like they're gonna lose towards the end. You know, they always completely get the shit kicked out of them. You think that Godzilla, there's a point where Godzilla just appears like he just can't get up. Godzilla's so beaten. He's been so pummeled by
So
Gigan
that's
with
the
his
reason why
buzzsaws.
I like this fight, because like Godzilla and Anguirus just get the shit kicked out of them. And you
Yeah.
don't really see that happen to Godzilla very much. Usually Godzilla is portrayed to be like such a badass
Yeah.
that like he you know, I think of Godzilla Final Wars, which was you know, one of the Millennium series, and Godzilla just kind of bulldozes through every other monster in the Toho pantheon. And I, you know, that movie's fun for that. You know, you enjoy watching it for that. But once in a while, you really want to see your hero, I guess, in this instance, work to
Yeah.
defeat the bad guy. And I kind of dig this, you know, especially since I think that with Ghidorah, usually Godzilla and, you know, another few monsters will just kind of dogpile on him until he leaves. Like here, Ghidorah actually feels very formidable, especially backed by Gigan.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, I you know, you are right that these are structured very much like a wrestling match. And you know, Godzilla's the good guy wrestler, and you know, him and Gigan are you know, wrestling partners. And
You mean Anguirus,
you
right?
know,
Godzilla and Anguirus.
yeah, Godzilla and Anguirus, and Gigan and Ghidorah are the heel wrestlers,
Right.
and you love the kind of boo hiss on them.
They don't
And,
play fair.
you know,
Yeah, and it's structured exactly so that towards the end, I mean, the best wrestling matches, you really feel like there's no way your hero is going to be able to get up, and it's just all over. This is also how a good boxing story is told. You know, you feel like Rocky is gonna lose because he's finally had it. There's nothing else he can do. He doesn't have anything else. I actually don't remember what turns it around in this fight. Like, what makes Godzilla get strong again?
They destroy the giant tower. And then also, I love Anguirus figures out he can launch himself at the enemy. That is a new move, and it is amazing. It's the like what becomes a signature move in a wrestling match, and what you want to see when people, you know, you hold out to the end, and then now he's gonna do his famous, you know, whatever the wrestling move is, and it is amazing. Like Godzilla's, you know, destroys the tower. He's shooting atomic breath, but Anguirus really, once he starts launching himself at the enemy, it's just
well,
insane.
and that really does feel like kind of a WWF wrestler signature.
All of it does. All of it does. All of it, because there's the jumping.
Anguirus is not a flashy monster.
There's jumping from like distances onto people. That's a totally wrestling thing. There's the dancing, you know, the crazy like, haha, I got you dance, you know.
Exactly.
It saddens me that we haven't seen. I know some people don't like it. It's a dividing line amongst the fans, but I miss Godzilla's happy moment dance. That was really cool. and you can't tell me if you're a producer of this movie that's too silly. So I
He
have
kind of
no
does it in
explanation.
this one. I saw him do some dancing. Maybe it's not
He
exactly
doesn't do
dancing.
the jig, but
Yeah, no, he doesn't do the jumping up and doing the little
Oh, it's
arm
so
thing.
great.
But he does some dancing.
Yes. Anyway, once they get rid of that tower, because the tower makes it totally unfair. That's the cheating part. That's why these are the heels.
Well, I love
yeah.
how they even have to, like, the heroine has to go, Godzilla is strong again.
Godzilla is strong again, and the actor playing Godzilla carries himself a little higher, and he's back to like moving his arms in a boxing way. Like I'm done. We're ready to do this now, and you have your final fight. He bends back Ghidorah's 3 heads so that Anguirus can like bash against them. I love that these monsters are so immortal that they can basically break and cut and bend and destroy one another. And then all they kind of got to do is run away and kind of refresh themselves, and they'll be okay. They have like Wolverine level abilities to regenerate, and that's great. And then they go away. And then that's literally the end. I mean, there's like nothing after that. There's some business we didn't mention about rescuing kidnapped scientists. We talked a little bit about it, but getting him out, there is one place where the manga maker's art actually comes in handy. It's a silly bit, but it's neat.
It's a really silly bit.
He has gone to the trouble of making a life-size poster of the whole crew and putting it up over a doorway behind which is a bunch of TNT. So when the door opens, the bad guys see the poster, they shoot through the poster, they blow up the TNT, it destroys the tower. Beautiful.
I love this one trick that they do where they have a giant balloon that they fill with helium, and it's attached to a rope, and so then they just float the balloon up to where some of the people are in a window, like in a high floor, and so that they can then climb down the rope, slide down the rope, which I don't
not
think
from
would
the balloon.
work.
The balloon carries up the hook.
But
so
carries
then they
up
can
the
hook
rope,
the
so that
rope.
they can tie it. You're right.
Which
But that
is
was
great.
really clever. Yeah, that was really clever. I like that a lot.
It was nice.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Which
and suddenly
almost
Genko,
makes up for how awfully unstealthy each time the guy tries to sneak in. Like, why are you even here? Had to get something?
Yes.
Like, what am I gonna hear about my art? Wait, you don't. No one asked you here. Like, he's so terrible.
Right, and they're like, you should not be near these places. This is nowhere near the offices. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Genko, the idiot. Genko, the one who can't walk 7 feet without stumbling and falling. Suddenly, he can zipline amazingly well. I mean, it's just like he's done this before. There's no way in heck that he has ziplined from a 400-foot tower. But suddenly he's Tom Cruise. He can, he gets on that thing. It's because his girlfriend showed him how. That's the end of the movie. I mean, literally, it's like, bye, Godzilla, and and Anguirus, who gets no respect, and
the cockroaches crawl off.
The cockroaches whine while burning, and it is super funny, because you got cockroaches underneath who are pinned down by some stuff going, how could our plan have failed? I just love that. Yes, I mean, I missed anything that we should discuss, like trends? It's so difficult to figure out like what to make of these films because, again, the original Godzilla, so serious, so much about respect for the earth and the misuse of atomic energy. This movie doesn't appear to have. I can't think of a theme. I can't think of a single theme worth discussing in the film. But if you can think of one, I'm more than happy to entertain it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
never trust alien cockroaches to
giant organizations that claim to offer peace are probably lying. I mean, that's actually.
Well, I mean, they do dabble into the anti-pollution thing because they talk about how the world the aliens came from was destroyed by pollution.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. And like I say, there might be something too, considering that Japan was briefly ruled by the United States, and Douglas MacArthur was installed as a puppet ruler, or I guess an assigned ruler. Other people foisting peace upon you. There probably is some symbolism there, But generally, we've long since abandoned being in a position to think about, trends. That's just not what these movies are about. They've become wrestling matches, and it's very possible that people going to the theater at the time know that, that it's just that's what these films are. So okay, let's get our final thoughts on Godzilla versus Gigan. I really am glad that we discussed this. It was Julia, Tony, Drew, and then I'll go, and then we'll figure out what we have to recommend for people this week. Julia, anything I missed? Anything you want people to know about this movie? If when you are hanging out this weekend with all your lawyer friends and drinking Chardonnay,
I don't do
and you
that.
tilt back your head and,
None of those
and
things happen.
trill your hand around and say, when I settle back, I like to watch a film like Godzilla versus Gigan, and here's why.
So many things wrong with that picture.
What would you tell those lawyers?
I would not talk to lawyers about Godzilla, number one.
I'm
unless
disappointed,
they're
but okay.
unless they're listening to this podcast, in which case, then yay. No, I mean, I just think that I would tell a group of people that, for whatever reason, I was engaged in conversation about Godzilla, that this film is very different from anything else that I've seen, and that is a Godzilla film. And so, if you like those other movies, enter with caution, because it might be, it might not be, it might be disappointing to you because it's kind of silly. But if you enjoy, humor and good feelings, this is a film for you.
That's really wonderful. What a giving. Mr. Tony, lay it on us.
Yeah, I mean, I like this film just because it's so insane. It's a buddy movie, monster buddy movie.
Yeah.
As much as I love manga and being, you and I have written comics, I think it's cool that there's a comic book creator in the mix. I'm kind of sad that his ideas are so terrible, and he's not a very good hero. But it's really cool that the women in this movie are awesome.
That's a really good point.
Kung fu the crap out of the aliens. Because even the engineer, as much as plays a tough smoking guy, he can't get out without them breaking him out. But yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I had forgotten how much I enjoyed it until I saw it again in the theater, and then had to watch it with you, because I think it's just a crazy entry into this whole series.
Drew, what about you?
I dig this movie. I mean, it's got a lot of flaws. I think that we would be foolish to say anything otherwise, but it's a breezy, easy thing to watch. It's just, pure entertainment, pure spectacle. I didn't say anything about this earlier, but I just love the design of the miniatures in the amusement park, with like the Godzilla tower looks wonderful, but they also have these like giant sort of cartoonish Alice in Wonderland mushrooms and things like that, and it just, the whole thing's got like a nice manga or comic book aesthetic to it that I really enjoy. And again, it does kind of remind me of the Avengers, not the Marvel team, but the British series.
Yes.
So yeah. I just really like this movie, and it was kind of hard to get a hold of it for whatever reason, because
how did your print look?
I don't know
on the one you got, Drew.
Well, I got a Blu-ray of it through Half Price Books, but Amazon, for whatever reason, took it off their streaming this last week. It was just recently on there, and I tried to order a copy off of Amazon, and I guess because it did just go off the streaming, like there's like a lot of people price gouging on it, so you'll see copies of this movie on Blu-ray going for upwards of like $40-50. But the copy I got looked great, like it was
and you got the Blu-ray, so it's like the Kraken releasing one, right?
Yeah.
So it's weird. Like, it is weird because I got that one not too long ago, because in anticipation of this retrospective, but also because I remembered how crazy it was and wanted to watch it again. It was really cheap, and I got it at normal Amazon shipping times. I think these things kind of periodically do that, because I've seen some Criterion stuff that was only briefly out of print, and all of a sudden Amazon profiteers jack the prices up and they're on their stores and stuff like that. But then like a few weeks later, it comes back. I know Sentai Filmworks, who does crack releasing, just did a huge sale. So maybe they'd offloaded everything. Maybe they were actually out of print. Because I noticed Godzilla 84. I don't know.
I think there's also probably, because of the recent Godzilla film, there's probably a lot more people buying Godzilla movies than there normally would. I'm sure there's a new influx of new fans who are probably wanting to get their hands on the older ones, and that's going to cause things. Also, people are gonna pay what they're gonna pay for things. I talked about this on Facebook yesterday, but I was a bit surprised. I stumbled across someone selling old copies of the Hack Slash versus Halloween Man crossover for $20 a pop on eBay. And I was a little surprised that anybody would pay that much for it. Not because I think it's bad, but because like I still sell that comic for like $5 at conventions. Which, by the way, if you really want to get your hands on that collector's item, buy it from me first.
Right.
Tim Doyle does that all the time for his prints from Nakatomi. There'll be some person selling something for crazy amounts, and he pisses off collectors because he'll just post and go, you can buy that from me, right? Like for way cheaper. Just go to my store. And the people who like prints, because all of the collectors just hate him, because the idea of like, oh, there's a poster and there's only 100 of them or 500 or whatever, that makes this a collector's item. And he just goes, yeah, I still sell that. You want to print? Here it is, this amount of money. So yeah, that whole speculation thing is just weird, man.
That's very strange. I haven't checked any of my stuff in recent years, but I have a feeling it would be disappointing. I have no final thoughts. I'd like to get to endorsements and find out what people are watching, because I feel like, it's so sad. People don't know, for the listener, people don't know how our lives work. We often don't get to talk to one another, except for when we're actually on this show. So this is my way to find out like what you guys have been enjoying, especially when we're like super busy. Tony's been so busy, and everybody, Drew's making comics. I'm like fumbling my way through a book deal, and I don't know what you guys are watching, so I can't wait to hear it. Julia, we'll start with you. What do you have to endorse for us this week?
Well, we checked out the new Aziz Ansari. I guess it's on Netflix. His stand-up special right now, and it's really interesting. It's not nonstop gags and jokes. It's not hysterical, but it's very interesting. He's chosen to attack both the PC culture and also everybody who's not PC culture. and he does some like very sentimental, like, appreciate your parents and the time you have with them stuff. And it's very like, it's really definitely worth checking out. Because he talks about his own, scandal from last year, and how that's kind of impacted him in his life. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's right now Netflix special by Aziz Ansari.
Yeah. By the way, I won't bother with getting when we get to mine, because that was exactly going to be my endorsement.
Oh, sorry.
No, I felt the same way. It's really touching. It's really well thought. I have no idea how the audience is accepting, what he had to say about his own brush with whatever. I have no idea what the response has been. I don't even care. It was a really great monologue. Yeah. So Tony, what do you got to recommend?
Well, I have been busy because when I'm not doing everything else, I've been tracking a new Deserts of Mars EP. So we finished tracking all guitars, all bass, and one of the songs vocals. It's like a 5-song EP. So that's what I've been mostly doing. In between that, I've mostly just been watching just kind of random stuff on Amazon. But I did pre-order. Mill Creek is doing steelbooks and normal Blu-rays of Ultra Q and Ultraman, the first Ultraman. In fact, they have the license for everything Ultraman, it seems like. So we'll be seeing a lot of that stuff. If that's in your wheelhouse, and if you're listening to this thing about this crazy movie, hopefully you're also digging Ultraman and that kind of stuff. So I am super stoked about a really good Blu-ray of Ultra Q, which has gone out of print in DVD and is harder to find. That is the precursor to Ultraman, has a bunch of kaiju in it, is kind of like part kaiju movie, part X-Files, part Outer Limits. If you like those things, you might be interested in if you put them all in a blender and out comes Ultra Q.
Yeah.
So that just recently, and I couldn't click the pre-order button quick enough on that. Like, because I have it on DVD and it took a little bit. It was on Shout Factory for a while. It's a shame that Ultra Q left. They still have Ultra 7 last time I checked. And they're still putting out Sentai shows. There's a new, I think it's a Hurricane Ranger, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so you can still watch all the Sentai stuff. Power Rangers, the stuff that got adapted to Power Rangers, if you're on Shout Factory TV. But yeah, I can't vouch, of course, for the Blu-rays and what they look like, or if they're really good, or any of the stuff I would normally say, oh, I have this and I can vouch for it. But if it's the quality that people are saying it is, reviewer, like pre-release people who create the buzz for this kind of stuff, I am super stoked. But you can pre-order the Blu-rays, and there's a regular Blu-ray edition, and there's a steelbook edition as well.
Nice.
How crazy
Very
town
nice.
you want to be. So.
I love the Shout Factory Roku app, by the way, and Riff Tracks.
It recently got fixed because it was broken for a long time.
Yeah, no, it was. But
you can also subscribe to it if you haven't, and if you're in the same way that you can do a la carte other things, you can subscribe to Shout Factory through Amazon and I guess but I just either get ads or
I have no idea. Maybe it makes the ads go away. I've yet to figure that out. Drew, what do you have to endorse?
You should all stop what you're doing, go get movie tickets, and go see Crawl. If you want to see a very different kind of reptile rampage, this is a very, very, very fun movie. Produced by Sam Raimi, whom I love. It is about a girl going to rescue her father during a Category 5 hurricane, and they get trapped in the crawl space underneath the house. The house starts to flood. It has also become infested with alligators, and they now have to fight to survive. And very, very tense movie, extremely gory for a mainstream movie, but also just suspenseful, I know this sounds a little daft, but almost Hitchcockian way. And the two leads, the guy playing the dad and the guy playing the daughter, are both terrific. Like, there's some campy acting from some of the side characters, but the main leads, like, they play it 100% straight, more or less, and it really, really works. So if you're looking for like a good roller coaster ride horror flick this summer, because I know the big thing out right now as far as horror movies go is Midsummer, which looks artsy horror film. This is not that. This is like, old school B movie, very much, in that vein, but there's nothing wrong with that. And, if you simply just want thrills and chills and, to scream and, hoot and, shake around in your seat with an audience. And I really do feel like this is the kind of movie that is best viewed with an audience. I really highly recommend it. I really, really, really like this movie. I can't wait to show it to more people. I think this is going to be a movie that I show at parties at some point, because I think it would be a good a good horror movie party film, because it's a good audience interaction film, and just well done. Creature feature. It's a creature feature, and I just really dug the hell out of it.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. I know I said that I wasn't going to shout anything out, because Julia had the same thing that I was going to say, which is Aziz Ansari's new show. However, I do have an app that I want to recommend. So I'm writing a book. It is due October 1st. That means I need to have a draft done at least by September 1st, so that I can try to fix it up way too quickly for a professional to do. But that's just the way it's going to have to work. According to my schedule, I have to have a rough draft September 1st and turn in something October. So I got an app called Writometer. That's WRITE, Write-O-Meter, basically. And you enter in your book project and how long it is and when you want to turn it in. And it tells you always, you open it up, you click on your projects, and it says, very helpful, it'll go 49 days left, and then it'll say, you need to write 1,233 words today to be able to finish this book by the date that you've set. And it has a little frowny face. And then as you enter in the words that you got done that day, it smiles and it tells you, how many days you have left. So, it's actually, a good sort of robot accountability. I've the last book I did, I used this, and it's just a really great way to keep track of where you are. So my endorsement of the week is the app Writometer or Writometer or whatever the heck it's called.
Cool.
So that's it. Yep. And that's our discussion of Gigan. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. What are we back with next week? What's the next one? Do we remember?
Either
hang on.
Godzilla or 84.
I think it is 84 actually. Yes. Yeah, I believe that's right. Well, we will let people know anyway.
We're very organized.
Yeah, I know. You can tell.
We need a kung fu. Julia, step it up. We need a kung fu badass who can keep us on.
Yes.
Kung fu the aliens for us.
I'm kung fu badassing immigration law right now, so that's all I have energy for.
You're doing better than you're doing better work than us discussing cockroach people.
That's the Lord's work.
How it affects our entertainment lives.
We are back next week, if you can believe this, with we're going to zoom all the way forward to 1984 to the return of Godzilla, and that is going to be
a very, very different Godzilla.
Yes. I cannot wait to see this. I haven't seen it in 30 years. So
the Blu-ray for 84, which is the Japanese edition, is last time I checked, it was readily available. However, they didn't get the rights to 85, so you're either gonna have to find it streaming or go VHS, which I think I still have my VHS. I'm gonna try
for the listener. 85 is the same movie but with Raymond Burr.
And actually, there's some significant edits that we'll talk about.
Well, there we go.
Depending on your flavor, 85 was what I saw and loved it. I did not understand how much they had changed and what kind of the intent was until I saw. I think my friend Hiro had gotten a tape from Japan that he brought back. And I was like, whoa, this is different. This is cool. So I'm going to try. I've watched the Blu-ray several times. I'm going to try to. I have the poster. I have no idea if I still have the VHS for 85. I'll maybe check Half Price Books. Anyway, if you want to watch along beforehand, fair warning, it's a little harder to find than perhaps it should be, which is silly to me, but that's how things work. But 84, last time I checked, you could still get, which is worth having because it's usually cheap, like 10 or 12 bucks or less. I think it was $5 on a sale this weekend. So,
and it's possible, I'm just guessing, just throwing this out there, certain sites like Daily Motion may have very bad transfers of the ones that are not available. So, you can do that for reference after you've watched the legitimate one.
Yeah, always. My thing is always, if there's a version of a thing you like, buy that thing. Support the artists, support the people who are trying to bring you the things you like. And, especially when they're super cheap like this.
Oh, yeah.
But, if things are unavailable, there's a whole internet out there. But I dislike when people use other crutch. We talked about it several times on the podcast.
No, I agree.
But
and that's why I bought the 84 Blu-ray. Yeah. And I'm going to watch some of the. I just want to see what that Raymond Burr stuff was like, but I'll watch it after we watch the legit.
Yeah, you should. I mean, if you have
Japanese.
time, I'd highly recommend watching both because it's a great, interesting contrast in what, especially since that's the first one I got to see in the theater. I just
Yeah.
never had a revival close to where I was at, and they did a really wide release, evidently, because I saw it in where I was living in Mississippi, and that theater was not so great. So the fact that in Macomb, Mississippi, you could go see Godzilla 85, that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you. We will see you next week. Can't wait to discuss Return of Godzilla and all of its many titles. And thank you, and can't wait to discuss this on the page. Bye, everybody.
Night.
Good night.